Hey everybody, it's that time of week where we huddle in the pod shed and drop a new episode of the Truck Show podcast for your education and enjoyment. On this episode, we invite Bert Heck from K&N, and we have a whole slew of questions for him about the brand, the product, and even where K&N is headed. It's a storied brand that's had several significant changes in the past few years, and it is positioning itself to be relevant for years to come. So we'll find out more from Bert himself. Beyond that, we'll check in with our listeners to see what messages we have in the inbox and the 5-star hotline. And funny side note, I just got back from Colorado, and it was the first time Marin and I have been on an airplane since an accident. We were out there to see some friends and be there for a wedding. So for those of you who travel, you know that getting a rental car is always a pain in the butt. Fortunately, I've got some status with Hertz, which puts me in gold, the President's Circle, and I like that because you can get a certain level of car, and if a better car is in the lot, you can take that for no extra charge. And so we've done that a few times where it's like, okay, got a midsize. Look, there's some cool SUV. We'll grab that. Or there's a sports car or whatever. So we go through the airport. We get off the plane. Flight was great. We both survived. And we get to Hertz. And I look on the board when we get off the shuttle bus. And it says S. Holman, President's Circle. So I'm thinking, yeah, President's Circle. That's pretty good. That means we're going to get some nicer cars. And we roll out to the President's Circle. And we get off the bus. And everybody in the bus is President's Circle, and the selection is pretty awful. There's a Buick SUV that was probably the nicest thing there, and immediately got gobbled up. So then we moved over down the row, and there's some Kias and Hyundais. I'm not taking one of those. A clapped-out Forester Outback. Nope, Sunny. And nope, I don't need the all-wheel drive, and I need space because we're going to have 5 people in the car. We're doing airport runs, things like that. So then I look at Volkswagen Atlas, and it was like, okay, well, that's probably okay. I've rented Volkswagen before. It was fine. Walked up, boom, somebody's sitting in it. So then I looked, and there are 2 Jeep Compasses, one Trailhawk and one Limited, and one of them had 8,000 miles, one had 5,000 miles. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll grab the Compass, even though it's going to be really tight for 5 people. And in a last-ditch moment of desperation, I looked up, and I realized, the next row over also says President's Circle on it. And so I walked over. There's no cars at all. I mean, I think there were like 2 cars. And again, almost everything was gone. So I was super bummed out. And I thought to myself, all right, well, this sucks. And then I looked to my right, and there are 4 Ram 2500 HDs all sitting together against the building. And of course, in that moment, I made eye contact with the Ram I knew was going to be mine. And I heard. So I walked over. I said, Mayor, stay here by this car that I think, we didn't quite lick the door handle or take the keys, but I'm like, just stand here and make it look like somebody already grabbed this car. I'll be right back. So I walk over. I see 3 Rams. And one of the Rams is a brand new 1,900 miles, white Ram 2500 HD, crew cab, 4x4, 6'4" Hemi, big 12-inch screen, has the bench seat in the front, and a bed liner, the LED bed lights. I'm like, whoa, full running boards. So I go back to Marin, and I go, hey, I think I found our car. Let's go. So I texted my wife a picture, and I said, the Ram or the Compass? And she goes, no brainer. I'm like, sweet. So for I don't remember what it was, like $120 a day, we got a Ram 2500 HD with 1,900 miles. So smooth, all the tech that I needed, adaptive cruise. I will say the one thing about the new Rams I don't like are the mirrors. I prefer the old mirrors that you could flip up for trailer towing and things like that. I thought those were way better and less obnoxious when you didn't have a trailer. But I do love that the little convex mirrors are now power, so that's pretty cool. And they're power telescoping as well. So I have this white Ram. We're driving it all over the Denver area. And the thing that kept occurring to me is what a nice truck that was. And I tried to build it on the Ram configurator. And I came up with something around $65,000 roughly based on what I think the packages it had on it are. But it really rode nice. And I got almost 15 miles to the gallon in it. And it did everything we wanted it to do. The wedding was at some property in the backcountry. And so there's some dirt roads and stuff. No problem. I mean, it wasn't anything you needed 4-wheel drive for, but it's just nice having a big 4-wheel drive truck. Driving around I-70 and all the freeways out there, it's just like commanding view, great ride. Considering it was an empty 2500, it was totally acceptable ride-wise for a daily driver. So I just wanted to say, like, hey, you know what? Hertz, thanks for taking care of me. Thanks for the President's Circle. And thanks for putting an awesome truck in there that made me feel like the person I think I am versus squeezing myself into a little economy car for the week. And I know nobody really cares about what I was renting.
That's funny. I don't recall asking for a really boring story. My God. Don't you understand? No one cares.
But I think you care because I think I hit rental car gold. I hit a jackpot in the President's Circle. It's not often that you get a brand new full-size truck for a deal. Anyway, enough about that. Before we get started, we have to thank the companies that make the Truck Show podcast possible. The Truck Show podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. AMSOIL launched the industry's first synthetic motor oil back in 1972, and AMSOIL continues to innovate with a wide selection of synthetics that are formulated, blended, and packaged right here in the United States. These specialized lubricants are engineered for what you drive and how you drive. AMSOIL's Shop by Vehicle tool offers package size recommendations to maximize savings and includes AMSOIL's Ultimate Oil Change Kits. AMSOIL offers the protection you demand and the performance you deserve. Get yours today at AMSOIL.com. The perfect complement to your truck is a Kershaw knife. All Kershaw knives come with a limited lifetime warranty and repair parts are readily available through the website. Kershaw knives include lifetime sharpening, and the lineup has everything from EDC knives that can be used and abused for under $50, all the way up to high-end collectibles. Thanks to our generous partnership with Kershaw Knives, Truck Show podcast listeners can get 40% off MSRP and free shipping over $50 by using the code 2TSP2025. It can be used more than once and even includes automatics. Visit kershaw.kaiusa.com today. When it comes to amazing vehicle-based adventure content, how-tos, and great storytelling, only one brand is doing it right in the print magazine space, and that's OVR Outdoor Vehicle Recreation. OVR is about getting out there in our vehicles to explore and discover the world around us. Get complimentary access for a year to the digital library or a discount on your print subscription today at OVRmag.com. Use the promotional code at Truck Show Podcast. The Truck Show Podcast survives off of sponsorships and your reviews. Please help me to keep it free by supporting our sponsors and leaving reviews and comments on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
Who doesn't love our jingle? 7 years still sounds fresh, or as Lightning used to say, freshy fresh, which was super annoying, but we miss him. All right, let's get to it. Here's a great and informative interview with K&N's Bert Heck. All right, welcome to the Pod Shed. I've got three strapping young lads in here with me today, but I think we're only going to hear from one, and that's going to be Bert Heck from K&N.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about K&N, and everybody else is just staring at you? Or?
Yeah, everybody's just looking at me like, hey, what's this guy doing here?
So I don't know you well, but we've run into each other before because you've been at K&N for about 400 years.
428.
And I remember we used to bring vehicles by the Riverside where you guys had the office and the dynos, and if we had something with four-wheeler of the year that you hadn't had on the dyno yet, you wanted to scan it or check it. Sometimes we would do a little horse trading and bring a vehicle by. So
those were the good old days.
Yeah, those were the good old days. Good to see you, Bert. And then we've got Christian, who's hiding in the corner, who oversees the brand team, yes. And then we have James, who's taking video of us that you might end up seeing on social. But before we get started, everyone gets a jingle. So here goes.
It's the inside job, baby. Yes, it is. It's the inside job now. It's the inside job, baby. It's time for you to share. 1, 2, 2.
All right, Bert. So you're the inside job today. So you've been at K&N almost 30 years.
Yep.
And what is your role there?
So I'm the senior director of all automotive development.
So everything that has to do with intakes, drop-in replacement filters, all of that kind of stuff.
Oil filters, oil. We have wipers.
That's right, you guys
we
have wipers now.
Yeah, we have chemicals, brake clean, fuel additives. So pretty much anything automotive, it kind of starts with me and my group.
All right, so you guys probably know K&N as the originator of the reusable air filter. And during probably the 2000s, K&N innovated with rotomolded intakes, the Fitbic and things like that. Those were a big deal because before then was really just the aluminum tubes and things like that. And you guys were able to get shapes for horsepower and also to fit certain engine bays. And that was kind of a big deal when those came out. You've always stood on real dyno gains. That's another thing that K&N is known for, is that what you say is what you got, and you've got dyno sheets to prove it. But our listeners may have noticed you guys have been a little bit quiet lately, but I'm here to let everybody know that K&N is alive and well and continuing to innovate. In fact, you guys have extra brand new shiny product lines we'll talk about. K&N has a lot going on, and maybe start us off with the history of K&N. Who is K&N, and how did you become a almost 30-year employee?
Yeah. Okay. So K&N started in '69 between Ken and Norm, two motorcycle racers. They were out racing in the desert. The big problem: dirt, air filters, and so on. So during their workings on the motorcycles and whatnot, they're like, okay, hey, we need to come up with a fix. So after a lot of research and whatnot, they actually came up with a oiled cotton gauze filter. And then from there, it just has gone
nuts,
crazy, right?
So when did you hire in?
I started in '97.
Okay.
Yeah. So K&N bought a composite shop, and actually I was there helping just build the shop. I was talking to the owner of the composite shop that we bought it, was going back and forth, and he knew I had a lot of drag racing background, from street racing, all that kind of stuff. And so he's like, hey, I need someone like you that understands when you look at a valve cover or whatever part, you understand what it is, right? So I got hired on. I ran the composite shop for probably about 4 or 5 years. And then when K&N made a change to go into like mass production of composite parts, right? I didn't want to build 500 of one part, right? I love the skunkworks part. I love building the valve covers and scoops and all that crazy stuff. So then I go, okay, I worked myself into intake development. And then I started from the bottom and worked my way up to where I'm at right now.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, that's actually it's kind of like the American career dream, that you could start at the low end at a company and rise and be with it for so many years. I mean, I feel like that just doesn't happen that much anymore.
No, it doesn't. And not only me, but there is still a handful of people at K&N that has the same story, right? So we have a lot of people that work at K&N that have been there, 30 years, 20 years, 10, 15 years. So we still have a lot of those people that still have the passion for the company and are there for the red and orange.
So a lot has changed in filtration in 30 years. We've seen the oiled cotton gauze filters, which was really pioneered by K&N. We've seen competitors come into the space. We've seen dry filters come into the space. We've seen OE filters get better than they have been in the past. What makes K&N different, and why is your technology still the preferred technology for today's vehicles? Because I feel like there's so much coming at us. It's the longevity and the staying power that K&N has had over the years is great, but I feel like sometimes people just go to new things because they're new, not necessarily because they're better.
Yeah. I think the short answer to that is the amount of testing we do, right? So we're nonstop testing, right? Technology is changing, as we know, and we're keeping up with the technology and looking at medias, oils, even dynoing. I mean, we nonstop test our product to make sure we're staying ahead of that curve.
Yeah. So when we're looking at, media, is the K&N filter media and oil today different than it was when you started? Has that evolved?
The oil has.
Okay.
Right. So technology and oil has changed, right? It's gotten better than what it was 10, 15 years ago. But the oil is still a tackifier, right? And so we've looked at the ingredients to make the oil a better tackifier.
So the way it works is you guys have a higher flowing media, but by adding the oil to it, the oil is able to pull the dust, kind of like a magnet, out of the air as it goes by.
Yep.
And that's sort of the theory behind K&N, and what allows you to make those performance gains is because you can flow higher while still capturing the dirt.
Correct. So the cotton oil filter, right? So it's got the airflow. And so you needed to say, okay, so we got airflow, we got the performance. So, but what makes it an air filter? So obviously the media, we're always looking at new medias. And then, like I said, the oil.
Yeah.
Once we get the oil on the media and it, like I said, acts as a tackifier, that is what is actually grabbing the dirt and still being able to perform like we want.
So I know when people think of performance, performance can mean a lot of different things. It can be horsepower, it can be torque, it can be dyno number. Sometimes it's filtration efficiency. Sometimes performance is, throttle response. It's different things to different people. I would say that even more important than the filters in terms of like an intake or something where you kind of have a little bit of noise, a little bit more of the gains, your drop-ins are probably a massive part of your business, because there's a lot of people who are like, I don't necessarily want to change the OE part, but I do want to have the benefits from a drop-in filter, which is something that you can do with your panel filters or your drop-in filters, because you do see some of those gains. What are the benefits versus OE, and what makes K&N better for somebody who's thinking, I've got my $60,000, $70,000 truck, but I'm going to go put a K&N filter in it?
So the good thing, it's cleanable, reusable, right? So with our filter is, you look at it, it's like, okay, it can go 30,000 miles without even touching it. Or it can go 50,000, depending on what area and how you're driving the vehicle, right? Then you pull it out, you clean it, you re-oil it, you put it back in, and you go. So, it's a lifetime filter. So the benefit, like I said, is it's the last filter you'll ever buy, and it's a filter that is designed to perform. The airflow, the amount of dirt, the efficiency, and all that. So there's a lot of it that makes the package.
Yeah.
Right.
How much of the development goes into the sealing gaskets around the edges and stuff? I don't know. The reason I asked that is I had a filter that I was asked to try for the magazine from a competitor. And I said, okay, no problem. So it was just a panel filter. So I took out my OE filter and I put this other one in. And it had air leaks, even with it installed correctly inside the airbox, where I could take my finger inside the intake tube and it was covered in dirt because dirt had bypassed the filter and gotten around the edges.
Yeah. So in the earlier years, we used to use a gasket, right? And as we went through in testing, and so K&N has its own in-house lab, right? So we have a lab that we can, dirt test, efficiency test, and it's basically do all the ISO testing that we need, right? So what we have learned over the years, instead of using these gaskets, we've looked at bulb seal, where the filter basically has a bulb seal in place there, right? So when we come up with a new filter, that filter will go into the lab and it'll be tested. It'll be tested for efficiency, how much dirt it'll hold. And the biggest thing we do look at is how it seals, right? So we buy the factory air box, we get all the measurements, we design our filter, and then we run it through the lab. And if at any point that filter has a leak problem, we stop. Then our lab technician gets with our product engineers and say, look, I just seen this, and the filter, like say, failed at X amount of grams of dirt and introduced to it, or whatever the situation is, right? Then they stop, they go back, and they look and see what happens. So the biggest thing that we found with the OE boxes is they don't really seal very good, right? So we had to make a filter that would seal around the small issues that their box has.
Sure, because there's a lot of mass production. We know that there's a lot of inconsistency, or the allowances for how the parts fit together are a lot looser than maybe you want if you're building a one-off system.
Yeah.
And so you have to build enough tolerance in your product that soak up their lack of tolerance in the pieces that they're building. So I was actually surprised. I never thought that I would have an air filter fail by not sealing in the box. To me, that seemed like one of easiest first things that you'd want to get right on a drop-in filter, and you don't really think about there being a lot of technology in a drop-in filter, but really there's quite a bit that goes into just a direct replacement.
Yeah, so like the urethane, right? That's the black part of the filter.
Sure.
A lot of competitors don't use a urethane like we do. So you have shrink rate. What does the heat do to it?
Sure.
What does the cold do to it, right? So the filter is actually moving within that air box. That isn't perfect from the beginning. So then when you have a filter that does that, then obviously you're going to have the air leaks.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about technology and looking, not only media and oil do we look at, but we look at the urethanes and all the other components to that filter.
Because you have to have something that's temperature stable, but also vibration stable too, if you're doing off-roading trucks, things like that. And then something that still performs when it's packed with dirt. And I know with, filter technology, we like to talk about surface area of the media. And what people don't understand is that two filters side by side could look identical and have completely different filtration properties.
Yep.
And a lot of times you'll look at one filter that has a ton of pleats. Well, that's extra surface area that can absorb the dust and things. And you have one that you can see through.
Yeah.
And so there's a wide gamut of what you get that presumably is going to replace a single part, but you may have something that has deeper pleats in it. You might have something that has more pleats in it that's more dense. You might have something that has a different media. And so there's a lot that goes into just the what looks like a very simple automotive replacement product. It's not that simple.
No, and like I said, the testing, right? So we spend a lot of money on testing, even if it's a filter for, a Prius, right? Versus the testing that we do for a Chevy Duramax, right? It's the same test and they're looked at the same way, right? And when you go to it as media on holding dirt, we can go from a 5/8 pleat to a 7/8 pleat. We can use an 1.5 pleat. And all that is thought about on the front side during the development. So the product engineers, when they're looking at it, they look at the application, right? And we say, we know what kind of media we'd want to put in a Duramax. And we know what kind of media and, depth and size of the media for like a standard, street car.
Well, it's funny. I was looking at different filter prices, and I want to say just looking at like a Wrangler 392, for example, I think the K&N filter is like $65-$70, something like that retail. And you go to Mopar for the replacement filter, and even on the discounted Mopar sites, it's more expensive than your filter by not an insignificant amount.
Right.
It's like $80 to $100 for a drop-in filter. And you're sitting there going, wow, I get a better product that's going to last me the lifetime for cheaper than the OE. That's a hell of a value proposition right there.
And you think about it, it's like, so the OE replacement filter, right? So you ask yourself, did Chrysler price that because of the vehicle it's going into?
Sure.
Right? We don't look at it that way. We look at basically the makeup of the filter. So when we go through the costing models and whatnot, we don't look at that as for a 392 or what. We don't look at that. We look at the media, everything that's put into it. Then we look at the number and say, okay, this is what we're going to sell for. So we've seen that in the past where it's like, okay, I got the 392 or Z06 Corvette,
sure,
right? So it's a $300-$400 filter. We don't look at that.
Yeah, you guys have the 392 one on your website right now, $68.99.
Yep,
and it's $20 or $30 less than some of the places have the OE filter, which is pretty crazy.
And real quick, it's the last filter you ever buy.
When you go into the dealer and they're like, oh, it's, your air filter change is $200. And you're like, what? Oh yeah, $125 of labor and 80 plus or $100 for a filter. I mean, you're just kind of tossing money. It's
right.
We all know how easy it is to replace a filter. The only sad thing is it's one of those parts that you kind of don't see, and so you may feel it and it's there and your cost of ownership is going to be much better because you can use it. So let's move on to intakes. So maybe walk us through the process. You've selected a vehicle. Mm-hmm. What goes from the time that vehicle rolls into the shop? And you guys have determined, we did the study, our product planner said, this is the vehicle, they're going to sell a ton of these, and there's a big user base who wants an intake. Yeah. What's that process like for you guys?
Okay, so let's use 392, okay. Right? So we know when Chrysler came out with 392, it's like, so K&N is like, we got to do something for it.
Yeah.
So we did all of our case studies and looked and said, yes, without a doubt, we're going to do it.
And before you go, I'll just bring this one thing up. The 392 is both special and complicated in a couple of ways, and you guys have a very different intake design than your competitors do on it. And just for people who are listening, if you don't know, the hood scoop on a Gladiator Mojave is fake. The same top part of that hood is used on the 392, but its hood scoop is real. Yep. And what it does is it goes in through the hood and kind of circles back to the airbox, and it's got these flaps on the back so that if you were to ford water and it sucked in water through the hood, it can dump an enormous amount of water at the backside of the engine and not get to the filter.
Right.
So it's probably as close to a weird, like, cold air snorkely thing that you could get by being in a hood. So it's different. Now, you guys have your intake, and I won't give up the secret, but I'll let you talk about it. But it's the design philosophy and how it works is a lot different than what else is out there. So I just wanted, so as you're talking, people are visualizing and they go, okay, now I can see what he's talking about.
So we bring the vehicle in like we were talking about. So what we do is we scan the vehicle basically from the floor up, from fender to fender, right? So we basically scan the whole complete front of that vehicle, under the hood, top of the hood, everything, right? We take that data back, then the engineers get it, throw it on the computer, and start with the design. So we know what kind of design we kind of were looking for, but we kind of just throw it up in the air and let them kind of put it together, because the engineers we have at K&N have been there for 10 plus years. So they know kind of what they
understand the homework assignment.
Bingo, right. Yeah. So they know what we're looking for. So they go through and they build it, design it. Then we review it and look at it and say, okay, this design is within what K&N wants as an intake system. Once we do the buy-off on that, then what we'll do is we'll 3D print the intake. So we 3D print it. Once that's all done, then what we'll do is we'll put it on the vehicle, right? So we'll fit check it, make sure whatever the engineer designed, it'll fit, make sure the bolts screw in the right place. You know, we like to use all factory hardware possible. Yeah. We're not big on having a customer drill or put holes in the vehicle. You know. Well,
and on top of it, a lot of the factory stuff now use like rubber push down, to isolate it and allow it to move with the engine. But so you don't want a hard mounted airbox. You want something that moves with the rest of the drivetrain and it moves with the engine and can do its thing. And you don't want to make something so rigid that it wants to pull the boot off or something like that from the intake tube, because it's too rigid and doesn't move with the drivetrain.
Right. And that's another thing we look at during the development side is if you look at most of our intakes at the throttle body, there's obviously a silicone hose to the throttle body and the tube, right? And if you look, most of our intakes use hump hoses. And if it's not at the throttle body, it'll be at the filter side. So when that engine goes through its torque movement, it's act like an accordion.
Yeah, right? A perfect example, we'll go back to the 392 because we're talking about it, but if you rev a 392, the entire body goes side to side like old muscle car because the Jeep suspension is so soft. And if you do it with the hood open, the engine does it more and then the body does it. So it's like the whole thing's moving around with that big old V8, revving up in there.
Yeah, and so these are all the things that we look at, right? So during the development stage, that is in the thought when they design the intake. And then, like I said, once we do a 3D print, we fit it in the vehicle and look at it and say, okay, the bolt, bolts in here, fits here, hood clearance. We look at it and look at it. They don't hit it 100% each time. So we go back and modify as we go. Once we are completely happy with the way it fits in the vehicle, then that's when we really start doing our testing, right? We start doing airflow testing. Then we'll take the vehicle and do road testing. So we'll collect the data factory from the vehicle. So we download all the data off the computer when it's stock, go put the intake on, go on the road, collect all the data from the intake. Then we look at all the data, make sure that what we're doing isn't messing with airflow numbers, fuel trims,
So on that point, there's a lot of modern vehicles now that you can put an intake on, and the car, because of emissions and things like that, will go, oh, there's too much airflow, and it'll actually back out. So you may do the first few runs, and you get big power gains, and then you do run 2 or 3, and they're gone because the car itself has adjusted down. And so there's like some tricks you have to do to fool the computer, or things you have to do with airflow. Like, how hard is that in a modern vehicle for some of these vehicles that the computer's trying to keep everything within this really tight box, and you're trying to say, no, we're trying to give the enthusiast something a little bit more.
So one thing that we've done is we worked with several companies. Actually, we worked with GM and whatnot, and we came up with a machine that can test mass airflow sensors, right? So we'll take the mass air, put it on the flow bench, and we'll read what the mass air shows in a factory air box. And then what we'll do is we'll take our device, put it on there, and do the same test. And then we'll look at the MAF readings, and we'll give it a little bit of variance, so because the car will adapt to it, right? So we know that if you go like 10% more than what the factory is, the thing's gonna throw a check engine light, and it's gonna be a mess.
It's not like the 2000s where intake, headers, and exhaust, and maybe a chip, and you had 25% more power. We're clawing for every little bit of percentage to get more now, because all these manufacturers are so constrained, and they also look at warranty and things like that, and they don't want you too far outside because they are so tightly engineered now. And there's not as much on the table for you as there used to be.
Yeah, and emissions, right? So we won't go down that road, but you got the emissions issue. But the biggest thing that, especially on the late model vehicles, is the airflow and how the mass air works with that intake system, right? Because we've seen it, the guys will run a car in a dyno, and let's say it makes, 40 horsepower, 50 horsepower, and I'll look at them, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we missing here, right?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, they make another run, or they go on a road trip and whatnot, then the thing's throwing check engine lights or going limp mode.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important, or one of the most important things, is obviously making sure that mass air is completely happy.
Yeah.
Right? And here again, it goes all about the airflow. So it's airflow, mass air, get it on the dyno, see what it does, and then obviously look at what the vehicle is seeing when we drive it. So we'll take a vehicle out and we'll run it like 30, 40 miles, collect all the data. We'll go on the freeway, we'll do, stop and go. We'll try to do real world testing. And then when the intake is put on, we copy that same test. And like I said, then we overlay all the data and say, okay, we're good here, we're bad here. How do we adjust? And now look we've been doing this for forever, right? And there is many times where the engineers will come back and saying, hey, I have to reprint this because the airflow was too high, let's just say, right? Whoever thought that you'd have too much air for a vehicle.
Totally. And
right?
I mean, it's K&N Engineering. I mean, you guys are an engineering firm first, right? Like, you make all these great products and you're known for your filters and things like that, but the building's filled with engineers. So you have a building filled with problem solvers who are working toward a common goal of delivering some gains in one way or the other to the enthusiasts.
Yeah. At the end of the day, right? So what I've told our group knows that, it's fit, form, function, right? When someone spends good money on the intake system, right, they want to make sure it fits, right? And then second, they want to make sure that it performs, right? Is it going to give me the 15, 20 horsepower, whatever, whatever we're talking about? And the function. Is the thing going to have drivability issues, right? That's the last thing that we want, is to build an intake and have people calling us saying, hey, I got check engine light issues, or the car's going limp and whatnot. So we really, really stress when it comes to the end of the day, it's got to be fit, form, and function.
Okay, so you go through all of this data for, the 392. It's got this special hydro guide system. It's this cold air sort of through the hood from the factory. But then you guys do something really different with the airbox that nobody else do. Everybody kind of has this closed deal. You guys sort of have a open element to draw in more air.
Yes. So that's one of the traditional intakes that we did, right? It's not a next gen. So yeah, what we did is obviously we built a custom intake tube, right? It's like goes down to, I don't know what, it was like 2.5, and then the opening of it's like 6 inches, right? So we got a big 6-inch conical filter, and the filter is a massive filter on it, right?
It's huge.
It's huge. And part of that was obviously the airflow and all that, but the dirt retention,
dust, yep.
Right? So we know it's going to be exposed. We know it's going to be in a Jeep, and the Jeep should be on the dirt. So it's like, get the biggest filter we can, and so it hold as much dirt as it can. But going back to what you said, is the design is we wanted, with the heat extracting and all that, we wanted to make sure that we incorporated the heat shield, that it uses that factory inlet, so either to get air in or get air out, right?
Yeah, so the hood still feeds the side of your custom airbox.
Yep. And it's the same kind of technology like what we do on, say, the Duramaxes, where they have the front-mounted inlet, and it's got this big twisty deal, and it goes the same exact thing. We try to use where the manufacturer has like inlets and whatnot, because look, they already
did the millions of dollars of research.
Right.
Why beat them?
So if we can improve on certain areas, that's where we're going to improve on it, right? But if we try to, what we do try to do is try to use some of the stuff that they've already engineered, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we went with the 392.
Yeah, you don't have to rebuild the entire mousetrap, but if you can catch more mice with the same one, that's pretty good.
Make it a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Make it cooler, so that's how we look at all the applications, whether it's a 392 or, like I said, a Ford truck, a Honda, or whatever we did for an intake.
Yeah, that's awesome.
With the intakes, one of the biggest things that we try to tell our consumer now is like, you're going to get the most horsepower on a factory tune, right?
Yeah.
So when you buy an intake from us, you do not have to go and get a tuner or any other stuff. When we say
you're basically optimizing for what your vehicle came with from the factory.
Yes, right, with no issues.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the biggest thing that we really kind of pound our chest is we've done the testing, we've done our homework. This is what you're going to see when you buy it, and you will not have these issues.
Yeah.
Now, let's go extreme. We do have sometimes where there's a vehicle that just will not accept an intake, right?
Sure.
And if that is what happens, and we work with the customer, go back and forth, there's a lot of times where that customer will call customer service. They try to do what they can do, but a lot of times I'll get the calls and I'll talk to the customer and say, all right, what's going on? And kind of hear what they're saying and kind of just get the real world of what's happening, right? And look at it. And if it doesn't work, we have a no hassle warranty. I mean, we will give you your money back, not question it, and say, hey, hopefully on your next vehicle or
You'll
whatever.
think of us.
Yeah. So that's another thing that as K&N, the company is like, we want to make sure that we take care of that consumer. And if by any chance there is a problem, we'll make it right.
So having been at the magazines for over 20 years and doing a ton of installs and product testing, a couple of things I can tell you is I was always impressed by the K&N fit. Many installs, especially when you got into the more rotomolded, newer style where it looks like an airbox versus just an open filter element, most of that stuff you can install in 25, 30 minutes if you have your tools laid out, ready to go. It's really easy. The products that you guys make are very user-friendly for DIY and self-install, and they've always had a gain for me. I've always felt like, oh, wow, okay, this made a difference on the vehicle that I put on.
Right. So we just introduced what we call our next-gen
I was
intakes.
going to ask you about that because I saw that, and they look pretty cool.
Yeah, so we believe they're the best-looking intake and the best-performing intake on the market, right? And going back to what you were saying is, what we have done is we've engineered out all the hassle of the hardware, the nuts and bolts. So yeah, you're going to have a few nuts and bolts here and there, but it's not like what you would have seen, say, 5-10 years ago. These intakes basically drop in, and within 30 minutes, you pull the stock. It's probably harder to pull the stock intake out than it is to put one of our next-gen intakes in, right? So we're really happy with that product line. We're getting a lot of positive reviews, and people again, it's just a bitchin' looking intake.
And you're looking at with those. I'm guessing is it more engineered? Because going through the marketing materials, you have your classic, which, for example, keep going back to the Jeep, which you say is 5 to 10% over stock, and on the Jeep it's pretty much exactly 5% on 392. It's just short of 27 horsepower on that, so that's in line with the classic. On the next gen, you talk about being able to get 10 to 15%, hybrid airbox with a enlarged factory inlet, oversized tube with integrated airflow channels, next gen oversized quick lock, high flow oiled cotton filter. So maybe walk us through what are you doing different on the next gen? And by the way, I like the racing stripe on the filter. You have the conical filter, and it's that normal, like that the reddish pink oil, but then the top has the orange stripe on one of the pleats, and I think it looks super cool.
Yeah, so that write-up that you just read, that's Christian's fault.
Good job.
He did all that, right? So going to the intake, like I said, with technology, right? So like I told you about the scanning and going onto the computer and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot more engineering on the front side, where an engineer is basically, is designing like a masterpiece, right?
Yeah.
One of the goals that we want to do with this next gen is we wanted it to look as if it was going to come from the manufacturer that way, right? So it's got a little bit of the OEM look, but it's still an aftermarket part that obviously performs and
Is that
flows.
because consumers these days, there's a lot more technology in the cars, and you get a lot of the engineering types who are like, I like the performance, I like the filter media, but I don't want something under there that's going to draw a lot of attention when you open the hood. I want it to work, and I want it to be the best, but I don't need the boy racer parts of it.
That's where kind of the OEM look, right? That's why when you look at the tube and airbox, it's got the texture to it.
Sure.
Because it kind of matches what's going on underneath the hood. And when we are building intake, say if it's for, a Chevy truck or whatnot, we'll look at how the underhood looks, and we try to make sure that intake kind of goes with the flow of how the engine looks, right? So, each one is designed completely different. Each one is designed per the application that's gone on. So it's not any universal parts, right? So when you buy a next gen for your Chevy truck, Now, obviously, it'll fit all the GM trucks, right?
Sure, yeah.
But it's not going to fit a Toyota.
Yeah, it'll be a different filter part number.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Because the design of the intake, here goes back to the size of the tube, mass air placement.
It's more of a bespoke kind of approach to it, because rather than saying, okay, here's all the parts we have on the shelf, and if we make a custom tube and box, we can put the rest of these things together and make a intake, and it's a great commodity.
Mm-hmm.
The next gen is like, no, we're going to design the whole system specific to that application.
Yes, and no universal, right? So each kit is made for that application.
What do you think the enthusiast is looking for these days? The customer's a little bit different, I would argue. We talked about a little bit with the next gen, but going back to the idea that performance is a lot of different things. It could be a better sound. It could be more horsepower and torque. It could be more fuel economy. It could be more filtration efficiency. Do you think it's platform specific as to how you design these things? Or do you think that in general, the user is moving to one particular kind of want in an intake?
I think a little bit of both, right? I think platform, right, is like the truck guy, he wants a certain look.
Sure.
Right? And then the like the tuner market, they're going to want a certain look. So definitely it's driven by platform.
So what is, speaking of platforms, the biggest up and coming applications that you guys are working on? What are the things that you're seeing? This is on the way. Stay tuned. We know you want it. We're hard at work at it.
So this is something that's out of K&N's wheelhouse, right? So we are just getting ready to introduce another line of next-gen intakes, but with a dry filter.
Okay.
Right?
Awesome.
So they're going to be gas. It's going to be Chevy, Ford, Dodge, and I believe Toyota truck. So we're going to introduce, basically it's like the next-gen, the first release, but dry filter. And then the first of next year, here's another one that's out of our wheelhouse, is we're going to do a next-gen diesel application, dry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So obviously we're oil, K&N is oiled gauze,
Yep.
we know the whole story there.
Yep.
But we felt there are customers out there.
That you're losing because there's of choice.
Correct, right? So it's like we didn't turn our back to it, right? We didn't ignore it. We knew it was there.
Yeah.
But after having conversations with consumers and, going to the different cars and coffees and stuff like that, we're like, okay, there is a want for it. So
I would agree with that. I think that in certain segments, the oiled filter, absolutely zero issues, no problem. But I think that there are some people that are gun shy, and I think they see K&N as a filtration expert. And I think you guys could put in whatever, and they would go to it.
Yeah,
I think there's some people that, for whatever reasons, there's been plenty of internet posts, rumors, this, that, over the years of, K&N does it. So no, it doesn't. Here's all the data to back it up.
Yep.
And you guys have done a good job of kind of the counter messaging when somebody pops up. It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
But it has poisoned a certain amount of your potential consumer base. And so when you're moving into dry filter, I know it, from a marketing standpoint, you probably go, well, it's counter to our message or what we have, but I don't think so, because I think your message is filtration.
Yeah.
So I think it's just another alternative under your banner. I would run a dry K&N filter, no questions asked, tomorrow. Like no issue with that whatsoever. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, because if you know the history of K&N and going back to earlier, we've tested it.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not going to release...
On dirt bikes, by the way.
Yeah,
So people are going, oh, these things let all this dirt into your engine. I'm like, you realize the company was founded in racing in the desert.
Yep.
Right? That's your roots.
Yeah, and the big segment now is side-by-sides.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got those covered also. So, yeah, we felt the dry was something that we needed to jump into. There are the consumers that, like I said, are afraid of oil just because of the myth from before. And a lot of guys want the ease of a dry filter, right? You pull it off, you hose it off, let it dry, throw it in. Gotcha. So now we got them covered, right? So you want a wet filter with a premium air filter, maximum airflow and all that, you got it. You want a dry filter for ease of cleaning and just to make you feel better, and we got you.
Will they be comparable in flow and filtration? Is there a trade-off between the two?
There is a little difference in flow.
Yeah.
Filtration, depending on the application, filtration is almost identical to the oiled, and that's one of the things that took us a little bit to release this. Right, we wanted to make sure that our oiled filter, we know what the filtration is on that, right? So we need to make sure that we get the dry pretty much spot on to what the oil is. So we can tell the consumer, like, look, you are buying the best filter, whether it's wet or dry. Right.
And for me, as an off-roader, I'm not afraid of the oiled filter at all. But if I'm doing a 400 or 500 mile trip with a lot of people, I'm not worried about the filter not filtering. What I'm worried about is the dust packing up, which you could do on any filter. With a dry filter, I can take it out of the air box, bang it out, and throw it back in, whereas I have to do a little bit of maintenance, which would be harder in the field on an oiled filter. So, for that type of application and for people who are doing that, I think having that choice to say, okay, here's a great intake, which way do you want to go, is not a bad thing at all.
No, and like I said, it took us a little bit to jump into that arena, right? But I really think once we get in there, Christian does some good write-ups on it and whatnot. I'm going to give them all the...
I know some magazine guys who...
some magazine guys, right? And we give them all the data that is needed to tell the consumer, like, hey, look, you can still feel safe with a dry filter.
Yeah, right? I think for me, just coming from the marketing and media side, is it's not even the data. You provide the data, cool, thumbs up. It's really the story behind it. Who is this one right for, and who's this one right for? Make it really easy for the customer to go, oh, that's me. I'm going to go with this one. And that way you don't have any fence sitters like, I just don't know, right?
Yeah.
And if you can put a clear use case for each one, and it's not whether or not you get the K&N, it's which one you get based on how you use your vehicle. That's the way to go.
And that's very hard, right?
Yeah.
So we've done oil forever.
Yeah.
Right? And for us to jump into the dry, I mean, it's a tough jump. But from the testing that we've done, we have no doubts that the dry or our oil is, you pick what you want and you're going to get the best product.
Can we go back to panel filters or replacements for a second? Because I don't think people realize you guys have the long life disposable, the extended life disposable, and of course the high flow lifetime oil, which you've talked about.
Yep.
Maybe walk us through that product line a little bit, because I think there's plenty of people out there who maybe they can't afford a high flow, or maybe they just don't want to deal with it and they'll just drop in a replacement, but they want a quality replacement.
So that are two of the main reasons we did this, right? So cost. A lot of people, some people just can't afford a $70, $80 filter, but they want the performance, right? So now we came up with the Advantage line that it's an affordable filter, but it still has the K&N technology, right? And it's disposable, right? So you can throw it away, but you can still buy them pretty inexpensive and still get the guarantee that what K&N brings.
Including on the long life, you guys say 50% more mileage than a traditional OE air filter. And then you've got the extended life, so it's double the mileage of a traditional air filter. So the benefit is you're also getting a longer service life. So it may not be the lifetime filter, but you're getting pretty close to those numbers before you would have to service a lifetime, before you'd have to replace one of your extended life disposables.
Yeah, because one of the toughest thing about that is finding a media that would be able to hold to what we just noted, right? And so here again, the testing, going through the lab and going back and forth. So once we finally landed on a media that was going to work for us, then that's when we came out with the disposal site.
So, I don't know, it's been less than 10 years probably, but you guys made a big push into cabin air filters. And cabin air filters are exploding. They used to only be on luxury cars. And now a lot of mainstream vehicles have the cabin filters, and you guys have jumped headfirst into a reusable cabin filter. And I've used them on my vehicles since they came out. I absolutely love them. And I've pulled out the stock filter and go like, ooh, and I've pulled out the K&N filter, the same amount of that stuff, but be able to wash it, reuse it, throw it back in the car. I think they're great. Maybe talk about the cabin filters a little bit.
So when the cabin filter thing came out, a lot of people didn't even know they had them.
Yeah.
Right. So once we got in and started looking at them, one of the big things here on the cabin filters is, so it obviously goes within the air box of the air conditioning system of the vehicle, right?
Yep.
So the biggest thing, the key thing was restriction, right? We didn't want to restrict the airflow of the AC unit, right? But we still needed to have a media that was going to be able to collect that dust and pollen that you see on these cabin filters. So the fitment of them, it's a lot difficult. We can't just go out and buy an airbox, right? So we literally had to get vehicles. We had to get in there and scan them. We had to tear the dashes apart. I mean,
it was a lot.
It was a lot of work there, right? Now, I'm talking the early years before any of this data was out there.
Sure.
So we dug into it. We went head first. Here again, I said it, testing, right? We had to find a media that wasn't restrictive, but we had to get a media that would collect the dust and hold it.
I've been a fan. You guys, I believe you guys make disposable ones as well, but I use the washable ones.
So yeah, we do have disposables, and we are actually looking at improving on that line because there are some people that don't want to clean them.
Well, maybe it's a lease car. You're not going to have it long enough to pay the price for it, and you just want to replace it, but you want something good. And I know that you guys have some of the claims on those filters are like blocks up to 99.6% of influenza A viruses. And, I've seen what it blocks because from an off-roading standpoint, all the bugs and things that come into your car, I'm like, well, all of this stuff stayed out of my passenger compartment. That's pretty nice. And the nice thing about it too is you don't get that big puff of dust when you get back on the road and turn your AC up on high and get like all that dust in your face.
Well, especially like in your Jeep, right?
Yeah.
You go out on the trail, you get on the road, you turn the AC on, and you're like, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
So does it stop 100% of that? No. But does it stop a good 70, 80%? Yes.
Yeah. It's good. And then you guys also have it where it controls odor and they're great and they're super easy to install.
Easy.
Like for example, on the Jeep is instead of one panel that's a paper media that you're bending and trying to get it in there, you just have two side by side. You put one in, slide it over, and put next one in, close the door, you're off to the races.
And that's an easy one, but we do have applications where where a customer basically has to squeeze it together, put it in the air box, and then let it go and spring out, right?
Oh, yeah.
And here again, that wasn't our design, right? But we were able to design a filter that you could squeeze, get in, let go, and it works, and still seals.
Now, you guys have been doing oil filters for a long time. People probably don't think of K&N necessarily for oil filters, so maybe let's move on to oil filters for a moment.
Sure. So we've been doing oil filters, I would say probably since the early mid-90s, right? Our cans are, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I think the thing that makes them special is you guys have the wrench,
the nut
on the backside because it's so much easier, especially if somebody cranks it on there to get it off. Because you can put a wrench right. You don't need an oil filter wrench. You can use a regular, open-ended or box-end wrench and be able to get it off. That's a big deal.
So the nut and one is the can. The can is a heavy case can, right? So if it's on an off-road vehicle and it gets hit by rocks and whatnot, it's not going to affect it. But the biggest thing is the nut. The message we keep telling people, it's a wrench off filter. We get a lot of people that wrench them on.
No. Hand tight.
Hand tighten the oil filter, you're good. And then when you go to get it off, you get a 1-inch socket, get on there, boom, boom, comes off, and the ease of installation is there. You don't have to get an oil wrench or any other stuff. And the filters, they're a top line filter, right? The media we put in, it's a synthetic media.
And it's compatible with synthetic or traditional motor oils as well.
Yeah, and even diesel, right? So the oils that we put in diesels and how bad diesels are on oil, the filter performs above what it should.
And now you guys are moving into some industrial applications too. You've got air conditioning filters and things like that as well. I mean, you guys have really expanded the product line from, I had a conical intake on my, I think the first one I installed was my 94 Ford Ranger 4-liter, right? That's how far back I go. And then I've had all sorts of K&N stuff over the years, but to think of like that to your product line now, it's pretty incredible, all the different things that K&N does.
Yeah. So it kind of went back to what you kind of said earlier, is like, where did K&N go the last few years, right? We didn't go away, but we were investing in the core business on new products, the HVAC, the commercial filters, all that. That's where we were looking at, because we know that's the next thing, right? Is making sure that we have home filters.
Sure.
And industrial filters.
It's a natural progression. I mean, let's be honest. There was a time about, let's say 3 or 4 months ago where it looked like there's going to be an EV mandate.
Right.
And internal combustion engines were going to go away, and that's a big part of your business. So how do you diversify while taking the technology that you're known for in this area and applying it to others? So that totally get that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that now that the EV mandate's gone away and manufacturers like, woo, let's bring back ICE, everybody probably took a deep breath and went, okay, all right, we're going to be all right.
And it caught our attention.
Yeah.
Right. So when that all was going on, I mean, we were paying attention, right? And we had to start making some decisions.
Sure.
Right. So with that, it's like, okay, we need to get into the home air conditioning and the commercial and all that stuff, because we didn't know where the automotive industry was heading. Right.
Absolutely.
So it was scary, especially for us gearheads. Right. It's like, man, so you tell me when I buy my next truck, it's going to be electric?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm keeping my truck
yeah,
forever.
forever.
Yeah. So,
And that doesn't help when you have a lifetime filter. You're not
Right.
you're not going to see that guy again.
right. So it caught our attention, and we dug in and we said, okay, what do we need to do for the next new product that will take K&N to the next level?
Yeah, I was just looking at on the website all the different stuff that you guys have. It's crazy. I mean, you've got the pre-charger filters, which I used to use on my Ranger all the time for when I go to the desert. I'd throw the sock over it, and you've got. I could go down the list: fuel pumps, custom. And think about the old round air filters for hot rods and things like that. Like you guys still have that kind of stuff.
And believe it or not,
fuel filters.
I was just looking at the numbers. Our 14-inch and our 16-inch filters, we still sell quite a few of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's going to buy these? Right? Everything's fuel injected now, right?
Yeah.
But they're the hot rodders out there. We make a 14-inch filter with what we call the extreme top, with the filter on the lid.
Filter on the lid instead of the aluminum top or metal top.
We're still building those things, and we still have a lot of orders. So it's
so
like
cool.
It's crazy, right? It's like, man, who uses a carburetor anymore?
Hot rodders.
Yeah, I know, I get it, but it's like,
hey, I've got a 1941 Ford flat fender in the garage with a Buick Oddfire V6 in it. So
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys.
yeah, I get it. Oh, so am I. I mean, my race cars all have carburetors on, right? So I'm still that old guy. It's
Yep.
like everybody's like, put fuel injection on. It's like, nah, I know how to tune a carburetor. Fuel injection, that's for the young guy. Right?
Stub stacks, plenums, carburetor adapters, inline fuel and oil filters for gas engines. You've even got a line of carbon fiber pieces to make it look modern. I mean, vent breathers for diffs and transmissions and things like that. I mean,
and then chemicals.
And the chemicals, of course, you've got the cleaners for getting all the old oil and dirt out, and then you've got the new oil, and the aerosol oil's nice because you don't over oil the. I remember when people first got into servicing their filters, they would just put gobs of oil until it was just dripping up, and all you need to do is I used to put a little bit of a few drops on the ridge and let it soak through, flip it over to the other side, boom, done.
Yeah, so you'd want the wick, right?
Yep.
Kind of goes back to the problem where the oil versus the dry.
Yes.
Where people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They just want to clean it and run, right? But the guys that know how to oil filters, they know that you don't just get in there and smash it, right? You just got to be real selective of how much oil you put on them.
So tell me something about K&N that nobody knows about.
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me think about that for a second. I'm just trying to see where that can go, right?
Yeah.
That's a hard question because we're pretty open about what we do.
Well, you do. I mean, obviously, every intake that you do has the dyno chart that you can download right on the website, right under the application. You explain the whole process to people of how you test, which is pretty interesting if anybody wants to go to the K&N website, which is knfilters.com. There's just a ton of resource on there that is really great. I know you guys recently moved manufacturing to Texas. That was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. So we took our facility was in Riverside.
Yep.
And we moved to Texas. And really the bottom line is that move was logistics, right? So we basically put us right
You're
in
central in the country.
So it can go to both sides in 2 days, right? So we want to make sure that we can get the product out to people without them having to wait the 5, 7, 10 days. So our main manufacturing is in Texas. So in Riverside, that's where all of our product development is. So that's where the dynos is.
So you guys are still there. HQ is still there, but the logistics, manufacturing, shipping is what moved to Texas.
Yes, yeah. So Riverside has roughly 40 people in there. And then, like I said, then in Dallas, we've got, I think our numbers like close to 500 or so.
Yeah. Oh, and you're close to carb too, because you still got to get EO numbers and things like that and go through that process, which is a whole lot of fun for every manufacturer.
We don't need to talk about that right now.
So
yeah, they're actually, which is funny, carb is like a rock throw from where we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to be doing it, you might as well try and be in the neighborhood and have a good relationship.
And we do have a good relationship.
Fine folks at that Alphabet agency.
Yes. Yeah, we love them, don't
Carb
we?
people all love tremendously. Love you, Carb. Okay, so what would you like the people listening to the podcast to know about K&N? Is there anything we didn't cover? Is there anything about the brand that you feel like somebody's on the fence. They're thinking about a filter. They're thinking about an intake. What's the one thing you'd want them to know to push them over the edge and get your product?
So the biggest thing is research, right? If you have any doubts, we have a ton of data on our website, right? So if you're nervous about an oil filter and mass airs, we have a big write-up about the testing we did with oil and mass airs. If you have questions about dry filters, look at everything that we build. We have an answer on our website that you can go in and you can, research it. Do yourself that, at least that, get in there and see what we do and see what we're saying. Because I guarantee the people that are competing with us don't have nearly as much data as what we have. Dyno testing, right? I mean, if you talk about in a year, we will dyno probably over 250 vehicles a year, right? Tell me who can do that.
Yeah.
Some of the dynos that we use, we even had those manufacturers come to us and test product on their dyno because they know we're running the dynos. Air filter, the filtration side of it. I mean, our lab, we test. And all that data is on our website. So if you had any questions, go and look because it's right there. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the 392 Jeep.
Yes.
Why? Why that vehicle?
Why?
Yeah.
I guess you could say it saved my life since I tried to pancake one on the highway. So here's my deal. I got a 392. The second I drove it, I was like, man, this thing is stupid awesome. It doesn't have auto start stop.
Yep.
It doesn't have a second battery. It doesn't have a hybrid. It doesn't have a turbo. It's just a big stupid V8. Now, if you look at it, you're like, oh, it's an older V8. Yeah, it's an older V8 that they built millions of in Ram heavy duties, in SRTs, and all sorts of stuff. So it's proven. And it's like you pull up next to a kid in a Civic or a Mustang and you smoke them in a dumb Jeep, and then you push the little quiet exhaust button, like the happy neighbor button, and people like look around like, what made that noise?
Yeah,
and you're like,
So you're missing something else. I got you covered.
We should make that happen.
I got you covered.
So my 23 392 is being replaced with a 25, and that is now sitting at AEV right now, and I'll pick it up in, I think, 4 weeks or so.
Okay.
And then I'll bring it home, and we'll start making it cool. I'm looking at the 35 extra pound-feet of torque from that intake, and it's making me go,
So to tell you, I think we got some coolness in the trunk of our car.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. Well, I like that. Well, all right. So now you guys are listening, and you're getting jealous. But you don't have to be jealous, because when we're talking about the K&N crew, nobody ever says, lower the suckage! No, they say increase the suckage, because they're high flow. And K&N has graciously offered listeners for the next 30 days from when this episode aired, listeners of the Truck Show podcast, you can get 15% off from the K&N Filter website. Intake, air filters, oil filters, cabin filters. So use lowercase Truck Show Pod, and that's on the website, which is knfilters.com. And we will put that on the website as well. So if you want to pass that on to a friend, buy as many intakes and filters. And I just heard the crowd, the people listening, they just responded. They're very happy with that discount.
Yeah. Like you said, just don't buy one, buy two, buy three.
That's right.
Think about it. Christmas is coming up.
Oh, so yeah, that's right.
Holidays are here, so time to share the love.
That's right. Get your Christmas shopping in early. Also, I noticed that on some of your intakes, when you buy the intake, you also get the cabin filters included.
Yeah.
Which is, that's like a no-brainer. So if that application comes with cabin filters, you get it as part of the deal.
Yeah. So go on our website. We're always running, sales like
Love
that.
it.
And that's obviously one of the Christians.
So cool.
One of his jobs is to make sure that gets done correctly.
I mean, you're like, man, I should probably get a cabin filter. I'll just do the intake. Oh, I get it for free? Boom. I'm just getting done, right?
Yep.
So really appreciate you guys coming out to the pod shed, and the fact that, again, 15% off on knfilters.com for the next 30 days. Intake, air, oil, cabin filters. So that's lowercase Truck Show Pod. Make sure you guys take advantage of that. And thanks for coming out. This is awesome.
Thanks for having us. This is cool. And here again, I'm going to put this out. If you want to come to
your trunk,
the trunk, yeah, we'll leave that one alone. But at any point, the development center is in Riverside.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, if you want to come out, you're more than welcome.
I'd love to. It's been, no joke, 10 or more years since I've been out to the Riverside facility. It's been a long time.
Things have changed, and it's all been for the better.
Yeah, I would love to check it out.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys in Riverside.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Bert Heck, and thank you, K&N, for joining us, and thank you for the awesome discount code for the Truck Show podcast listeners. So for you guys are looking for an intake or filters, oil filters, air filters, cabin filters, don't forget to use the code TruckShowPod, all lowercase, on the K&N website, knfilters.com, and get yourself or some friends some new filtration products. All right, before we go, let's see what's going on in the inbox.
You email, yeah. I email, do it. We email, that's right. Everybody email, type it up. You email, proofread. I email, send it. We email, click it. Everybody email.
All right, got this one from Dan Church, and he says, "What's going on, Mr. Holman? First, so glad you and Marin are healing up and getting back to normal. Thank you. Making some good progress. She'll be doing PT hopefully soon. Her skin graft's almost healed up on her foot, and I've been doing lots of shoulder PT in the pool, so we're both feeling pretty good and working our way back. Love seeing the post of her walking across the stage and hearing the magical 'My voice has spontaneously returned' to episode. Is that amazing? I mean, think of where I was just a couple months ago and listen to my voice now. This is all new content, and I couldn't be happier to be able to bring it back to you guys and not struggle through. So anyway, he says, continued prayers for you both. Thank you. We're not out of the woods yet in terms of what we need for recovery and things like that, so appreciate all your prayers. Please don't stop. We definitely heard them, and thank you for all the listeners. You guys have been like family to us, and we greatly appreciate it. Second, I just finished the Mike Rice episode and new rig deliberation. Great choice. I went Bronco Raptor and absolutely love it. My buddy has a 392, and we hit some deep Sierra Nevada snow over the winter and then the Rubicon several weeks ago. I did post some content you may recall. Who knows? Yes, I do remember that. Over the runs we've done, he's yanked me out of some sketchy spots, and I've done the same for him. We both agree the machines are both amazing, and we are all very fortunate to have these choices and are splitting hairs across these rigs. With so much of it, as you always say, quote-unquote, use case specific and just flat-out personal preference. I've always been a Ford guy, so no, if I were in your shoes, I'd probably go back to a Raptor variant, but if I'm you, it's 100% go 392. That thing is a beast. I was listening to the episode telling myself, he's going 392. We already know this, but loved the honest look into all the options out there and Rice trying to get you to consider some big dude 3/4 tons. That said, I'm curious if the 392 makes its way into the Gladiator, would you have gone that way and had a bed? Take care, my friend, and hope to see you on the trail someday. Dan Church. Yeah, Dan, the 392 was never destined for the Gladiator, ever. I think I've explained it on here before. It was a program called J9. It was done under Kaniskas when he was at Jeep, and then priorities had changed by the time he left and Morrison came back, and it would just never got the development dollars, even though it's the same basic platform. And as we've talked in the more recent episodes with Bob at the helm and Kaniskas fighting hard for the return of Hemi, Stellantis is righting a lot of wrongs. Of course, the big, beautiful bill and the EV mandate and some of the things are changing the landscape and regulations. All those things are getting to a point where, yes, a V8's coming to the Gladiator, probably the 392 because the development's basically done on that. If there were a 392 Gladiator, I would have been all over that. To me, it's the best of all the worlds. And the one thing the Gladiator lacks is a lot of powertrain options. And so while the V6 is great for most people, I think that platform can give a little bit more, and it needs more power to do that. And the 392 is great, but I'll tell you, if it came out tomorrow with a Ram 5.7 Hemi, I wouldn't be mad. I think truck Hemi would be awesome in the Gladiator. So that's kind of where I land on that. I think the Gladiator is a great vehicle. I think that having a mid-sized solid axle pickup truck is super rad. I'm glad we have that out there, and we'll see what the future brings, but I'm definitely excited for it. All right, let's check in with the 5-star hotline.
Oh, come on and be part of the show called the 5-Star Hotline. 657-205-6105. It's the 5-Star Hotline. 5-Star Hotline.
What's up, Holman? Hey, it's Rich up here in Hollister. Hey, I'm not sure if anybody or how many people know or not, but just because I deal with a big fleet of vehicles and we've had a lot of issues during the last few years with heavy rain. Is everybody aware that if you have a leak in your truck, for example, your sunroof is leaking? I know a lot of the Super Duties, especially like the 2011 through 2016, one of the trucks, my big black truck that I drive, has issues with the sunroof. leaking. Does everybody on here know that by simply placing charcoal in your truck, you know, a bag of charcoal, I don't do a full bag, but I usually stuff, you know, I'll put like 3 or 4 things of charcoal into a black sock, and I'll put it under the seats. Charcoal absorbs the moisture, and my mom's Jetta had a huge leak where something up with that particular year of Jetta, the 2013s, where the water was just pouring in. I put a bag of charcoal in the trunk along with a bag of charcoal in the back seat and so on, and the charcoal absorbed all the moisture, got rid of everything, and the smell. So just a handy tip, if you don't know how to get rid of that stench from your car, just put some charcoal in there. I guarantee you it'll work. I wouldn't put it directly onto like nice carpet because it'll stain it, but put it into a black sock or put it into a bag, something like a potato sack or something, put it in your car, and in a matter of a few days, it'll absorb the smell and the moisture. So, anyways, you're doing awesome, brother. It's so nice to have you back. It's nice to hear your voice again. Man, God is good, and we're so freaking blessed to have you and your daughter still with us. Hope you have an awesome day. Keep monitoring those crazy, funky parameters, and love you, dude. Talk to you later.
Monitor key engine parameters.
Thanks, Rich. Always great to hear from you, and thanks for the tip for the Truck Show Podcast listeners. We appreciate it greatly. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Truck Show Podcast. If you miss us between shows, be sure to follow us on social at Truck Show Podcast or at Sean P. Holman, or be part of the show. 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105.
The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Oh, oh.
And don't forget to give us your feedback, truckshowpodcast at gmail.com. I might read your letter or your thoughts on the air. And be sure to join the Facebook group, the Podshed Insiders, because, well, why not? Send me events if you have them, know your notes. And I'd like to thank our great sponsors. AMSOIL, obviously one of the best out there. If you love your vehicles like we do, they offer the best in synthetics. You can get oil change kits, car care products, and you can buy online, amsoil.com. And for the fantastic line of Kershaw knives, get yours today, kershaw.kaiusa.com, and use the code 2TSP2025 for a special Truck Show Podcast listener deal. And of course, if you love adventure and gear, you want to check out OVR Magazine, OVRmag.com. And you also get a discount there as well. And please, if you want to know what the discount codes are or what the current offers are, go to the website, truckshowpodcast.com, and you can go under the featured products tab. You can also listen to the episodes there as well. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much for the crew from K&N for coming in studio. And that'll wrap it up. Let's do it again real soon.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.
For those seeking a monitor, only the brand new GCX Watchdog is now available for Dodge Cummins and has a full 5-inch color display with a captive touch. It's quick to start and magnetic mount